What is up, Cats fans? It is Paul here from The Hoop Show, here to discuss a whole range of AFL23 news that has come out today. All of it sourced from the Big Ant Studios Twitter account, the official account of the studio responsible for the game. We'll begin by getting the bad news out of the way first. And so the feed has revealed overnight, or this afternoon I should say, 4:33 in the afternoon to be exact, an AFL23 an announcement. Physical stock of one of the AFL23 console platforms has not arrived in Australia, and to provide equity and fairness between all purchases, regretfully, the release of AFL23 will be postponed until the 4th of May 2023. That is a 3-week delay from what we'd expected to be. As of the day of this recording, we expect it to be out in just a week from now. It has now been delayed 3 weeks till this early May release date. It's a real shame, of course, but I mean, it indicates that one of the two key platforms, there was some sort of issue out of Big Ant Studios' hands that involved the physical versions of the game, whether that is PlayStation or Xbox, and some sort of manufacturing issue or delivery issue. The world is still a little bit messed up when it comes to delivery shipments and those sorts of things these days, so maybe that's a little bit to do with it as well. Of course, there's been people who have flagged the concern. Well, we're in a digital world these days. Why can't we still put out the digital version of the game? And why isn't that, why can't those who want to get physical embrace the digital? And if they really want to go physical, buy it again later on. Well, the issue with that is that, firstly, Australia has a higher percentage of consumers who are more likely to go physical. Our internet isn't as good as lots of regions around the world. And that creates some issues because the download time can be a lot longer. Maybe you don't have enough bandwidth. Maybe you have a data limit that prevents you from downloading something large like that because it completely soaks up what you have available to you on any given month. But also the fact that it's that sporting, that more like a more casual, and I mean this in the nicest way possible to anyone who's kind of listening who is a potential AFL23 purchaser here. A more casual gaming audience is what is being is what AFL23 is speaking to. Just as an NBA 2K or a FIFA or a Madden does, they're not necessarily the most hardcore video game fans, so they're not necessarily the sort that embraces digital purchases just yet. They might be more likely to go physical. And so if you've got a whole portion of the audience that can't get their hands on the game for some reason, well, it's a little bit unfair. And so they're trying to ensure that everyone can get the game at the exact same time. 3 weeks seems like a long time, but I guess that's the hand they've been dealt. It's really unfortunate. Big Ant Studios doesn't want this. The AFL doesn't want this. I know for a fact, having spoken to people working in the game is ready. So it's not a Big Ant issue. It's not a game issue. It's a manufacturing or delivery issue. And it's a real shame, but it is what it is. We're kind of stuck. So let's hope that there's codes available in the wild soon for review. Me on the Player 2 side there, being able to discuss the game in great detail. Also, of course, for the Hoop Show, the fact that we were there for the AFL23 launch event that now doesn't really feel like much of a launch event, considering this now extension to the wait. But the codes that we were going to be receiving for attending that night, really look forward to getting my hands on those. Hopefully they're not too far away and we can still start producing stuff for you, start playing those kind of preview games. It would have been great to have played Geelong and West Coast play next week. So it would have been awesome to kind of play that and maybe put it online for people and like have a kind of mock game beforehand. It's not to be. It's a shame in that regard, but I hope that everyone is really understanding. Video game development, publication, production is a really messy, multi-layered, multifaceted process that involves lots of different parties. And if there can be contractual things in place, as is the case here, that basically ensures that both versions of the game, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox, or in other scenarios like if Nintendo's involved, PC versions, whatever the case happens to be, there are deals and contracts in place that will often say there's to be no disadvantage to our version of the game. We must launch at the same time as the other one, no matter what. And so that can kind of, if for some reason there's a manufacturing issue and that can't happen, well, then you've got a whole audience that just kind of has to sit and wait whether they like it or not. Now, whether that's PlayStation, whether that's Xbox, I know, but I'm not going to tell you the answer to that. It's not my place to kind of say. But it's something that unfortunately is just a reality. So we'll move on, and we'll be playing the game in about 3.5 weeks from now, let's hope. So there's another piece of Big Ant news that is also really quite exciting. I want to share, and it's not necessarily going to relate directly to AFL23. In fact, it won't relate to AFL23, but it might relate to AFL24, 25, whatever is to come, as well as the fact that Big Ant is responsible for a host of other games. They announced this week that they are working on a new Ashes cricket game that is going to be out in June as well. So the studio is just churning stuff out at the moment. They're doing such an amazing job, and their cricket games have been fantastic in recent years. We've learnt that they have opened the doors on a South Australian studio. There's going to be about 60 different people that have been hired, range of different experience, and it's really going to help amplify what the studio has been producing. And again, they're doing tennis games, they're doing cricket games, they're doing AFL games, rugby games, golf I think is on the cards. I can't remember, there was a whole range of things that was announced in a NACON Direct a while back, at around the same time that the AFL23 launch was going to happen. And it painted a really rosy picture for the studio, and now they're going to unlock more because there's now another 60 people working in a whole other studio, being able to work either in a support capacity or on whole other projects, which frees the core team up to spend more resources on the next AFL game, or whatever the case happens to be. There's, with so many games in development at any given time, how those resources are distributed could vary. But it can only be a good thing. So this is fantastic for Big Ant. This is fantastic for the Australian video game scene. And it's fantastic if you're looking forward to an AFL 24 or something like that down the line. I guess on the subject of the AFL 24 or whatever is to come down the line, at the AFL launch event, I did have a chat to Ross Simons, who is the studio head. And I was pretty frank and upfront with him. And I said, look, Ross, the naming convention here is very specific. We've seen AFL Evolution or Evolution 2 or various different names like that, AFL Live in the past. AFL 23 embraces a naming convention that we see from the likes of NBA 2K whatever year, FIFA whatever year, Madden whatever year. They're embracing that same naming convention, and so should we expect to see AFL 24, 25, 26? And Ross's upfront answer was, well, we in the AFL hope so. So a lot is kind of dependent on the potential success or failure of this game. But having gone hands-on with it at that launch event, things were looking fantastic there, and I'm really excited about what's to come. So the fact that they're now adding more resources to the studio, more people getting involved, really lends to the possibility that we'll get an annual AFL game going forward, which is fantastic for the game, fantastic for the sport, fantastic for gamers. There's some really awesome news around this. Of course, a massive shame about the game's delay, but again, not the studio's fault. Nothing they could really do. Just get yourself excited for when the game comes out in a few weeks. If you want to learn anything more about AFL 23, you're absolutely in the right place here. For anyone who's not aware, I am a video game journalist as well as a footy content creator here with the Hoop Show. So this perfect Venn diagram that I'm right in the center of. So any insights, make sure to keep it locked to the Hoop Show, where I'll be able to talk about the game in depth when the time comes, when I get my hands on it. Unfortunately, we're now waiting a little bit longer, but when I get my hands on it, expect to see a whole range of videos about the game. Maybe we can get Ross on board for some conversations about the game and a whole lot more. It's really going to be awesome, so stay tuned for all of that in the future. But otherwise, Cats fans, we've got the Hawks in a couple of days' time. Let's hope we're not 0-4. That's going to be a bit of a problem. But if things continue to go bad, well, when this game comes out, we can just bury ourselves in it and pretend this season isn't playing out the way that it currently is and make things right from there. I'll see you later, guys. Up the Cats. Remain Geelong strong. I'll see you later.